Society spends a lot of time telling us to be positive, to look on the bright side, to take a deep breath and smile. But anyone who has ever stood in line at the Department of Motor Vehicles knows that unyielding optimism is a psychological disorder. Sometimes a positive attitude just doesn't cut it. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and a complete loss of sanity is a finely tuned sense of sarcasm. Great lawyer Clarence Darrow once noted, "I have never killed anyone, but I have read some obituary notices with great satisfaction." And there it is, the absolute, unvarnished truth. Darrow understood that sarcasm isn't about being cruel. It's about having a polite, legally acceptable way to process the fact that the world is heavily populated by difficult people. We all know someone who requires an enormous amount of endurance. You know the type. The neighbor who corners you by the mailbox to give you a 20-minute update on their lawnmower's carburetor. The relative who treats a simple family dinner like a cross-examination. You can't run away. You can't tell them to stop talking. So you nod, and you rely on the kind of quiet sarcasm Oscar Wilde perfected. Wilde observed, "Some cause happiness wherever they go, others whenever they go." It's a beautiful sentiment, because it sounds like a compliment for about 3 seconds, until the math finally adds up in the other person's head. And by then, you've already left the room. That's the true beauty of sarcasm. It's a filtration system for nonsense. As we navigate life, the amount of nonsense we are expected to tolerate doesn't decrease. It multiplies. We are told that efficiency is improving, yet we spend half our week arguing with automated customer service robots that don't understand the word representative. Mark Twain spent his entire life touring the world, meeting politicians, businessmen, and supposed experts, and it drove him nearly crazy. Twain finally concluded, "Suppose you were an idiot, and suppose you were a member of Congress, but I repeat myself." That was written in the 1880s. Comforting to know that over 140 years later, the blueprint remains exactly the same. But eventually, sarcasm stops being just a weapon we point at institutions, and it becomes a mirror we hold up to ourselves. When we are young, we take everything incredibly seriously. We think every minor inconvenience is a tragedy. We think we have all the time in the world, and we waste most of it worrying about what people wearing uncomfortable shoes think of us. There is a famous line usually handed to George Bernard Shaw. "Youth is a wonderful thing. What a crime to waste it on children." Whether Shaw actually said it on a Tuesday, or a journalist invented it on a Thursday, it survives because it is undeniably accurate. If you gave a 20-year-old's knees to a 60-year-old, they wouldn't waste them going to a loud nightclub. They'd use them to comfortably weed the garden and finally retrieve that pen that rolled under the refrigerator in 2018. Sarcasm is how we grieve the things we can't change. It's how we bridge the gap between how life should work and how it actually works. And if you want to survive the gap between expectation and reality, you have to learn the art of diplomatic translation. There is an old piece of political wisdom, often tied to Winston Churchill, that defines tact as the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. We use a version of this every day. When someone tells you a terribly boring story, you say, "Well, isn't that something?" When someone proposes a disastrous idea at a town meeting, you say, That's certainly a unique perspective. It is the sarcasm of survival. Because at a certain point in life, you realize you don't have the energy to correct the whole world. You just want to get through Tuesday. The famous New York writer Dorothy Parker was known for having one of the sharpest tongues of the 20th century. But her most useful quote wasn't a complex joke. It was a simple, 3-second reaction to a knock at her door. Whenever she was interrupted, Parker would simply ask, "What fresh hell is this?" I highly recommend adopting this as your official morning greeting. It sets realistic expectations for the day. When the car makes a strange noise, when the property tax bill arrives, when a modern appliance demands to be connected to the Wi-Fi just to toast a piece of bread. What fresh hell is this? People who don't understand sarcasm think it's a sign of a negative attitude, but they are entirely wrong. True sarcasm requires optimism. To be sarcastic, you must inherently believe that the world should make sense. Your sarcasm is just your disappointment showing. It is the language of a hopeful person who has simply reviewed the evidence. A true pessimist doesn't make a joke when the roof leaks. They just sit in the puddle. The sarcastic person grabs a bucket, looks at the ceiling, and says, "Oh good, I was hoping for an indoor pool." It is a defense mechanism for common sense. It keeps us laughing when we could easily be shouting, and it reminds us that we are not the only ones who see the absurdity in the world. So, the next time someone tells you to drop the sarcasm and just be positive, smile politely. Give them a nod, and remember Oscar Wilde, let them cause happiness whenever they finally decide to go. Which one of these lines earned the loudest laugh from you, and which one was just a little too uncomfortably true? You are welcome to leave your thought below. Someone reading it may recognize a piece of their own daily survival strategy. If sharp stories and honest humor are worth a few minutes of your day, you're welcome to join us again. Until then, keep your wit sharp. You're going to need it.